bring in Al-Hassan Suleimani, Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Al-Hassan, thank you for joining the conversation.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much, and my sincere apologies for coming in late. It was due to circumstances beyond my control. And good morning to Doc.
It happens, but thank you for showing up all the same. We're grateful. We've had quite an engagement, fiery engagement at a point on the bit of the E-levy and all of that. But I would just like to source a few lines that experts, analysts in taxation have said, and I'm sourcing from a document put together by Dr. Ali Nachia. We all know him, tax expert in this country. Two quotes.
Former lecturer.
My former lecturer too, interestingly. Two quotes. The first one, no government can exist. Grand art consists of levying so as not to oppress. Mm-hmm. So we can't exist without it, but levying so as not to oppress. The second one is by Northcote Parkinson, and the first was by Frederick the Great, 18th century Prussian king. The second one is, there are limits to the collection of revenue, and that evils multiply when these limits are ignored. However, the tendency to cross these limits appears to be universal, eternal, and all but irresistible. That is by Northcote Parkinson. That they will go ahead with this, whether you like it or not, at 1.5%, as we've now seen them reduce it to. And your stance that you don't want an E-levy. Are you doing us any good as a people, as a country?
Well, let me once again say good morning to the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. The NDC minority group in Parliament is not, an unreasonable group. We appreciate the fact that government needs money, it needs revenue to carry out the development that we all want in our various constituencies. And that is why, even though we had a hung parliament after the 2020 general elections, we have, in most cases, collaborated with this government to carry out the responsibility of governance, and to enter in cases when we have reservations. We have raised those reservations, but still supported because of the greater good. And so we cannot be seen to be against taxation, as we all know that we cannot live without taxation as a people. Especially as social democrats, we can't be against taxation. We believe in taxing, especially the haves, so that you can create an equitable, society.
For the have-nots.
For the have-nots as well. So when it comes to our opposition against this E-levy, we are simply, reflecting the times that we are in and representing the people who put us, in the privileged positions that we find ourselves. And maximizing their voices and taking decisions that we think will be in their best interest. Look, this government, for example, will tell you that what we are faced with is not as a result of their mismanagement. But clearly, I did hear you ask a question about how the UK managed COVID and how we are managing. Time is showing if that was, a proper management or mismanagement that has led us to where we are. And when they say we should all contribute, the question you ask yourself is, did we all contribute to the mismanagement that has brought us to this point? Did we all engage?
But at any point in time, we're going to have people at the helm of affairs. We can't all govern at the same time.
That's true.
Not like the Greek polis and how they started.
I understand. But what I'm saying is that is why we elect some people and we expect that they will know better. And so if they have messed up, and we are faced with a challenge, we expect them, because of the privileges that they continue to enjoy, to come up with better ways of lessening our burden, and not the economy that they manage, and not the economy that individuals manage in their homes. We all have economies that we manage. Your economy is limited to your income and how you spend your expenditure on your family and on yourself. That is the economy you manage. COVID affected that also. Some people were laid off work. Some people had to go reduce the times that they work, and salaries had to be affected. But in the midst of all of that, expenditure has been rising. And since we started this recovery program, look, they have slapped a number of taxes that we have taken as a people. the COVID tax, the sanitation tax, and all the taxes, you name them, in the name of, bringing the economy back to life. We, even though also affected by COVID, still endured these taxes. And so when we say this is becoming too much, it is time for them to listen to us. And look, when you even look at COVID, the bank gave Ghana $100 million. The stabilization levy, the stabilization fund that they inherited, which was set up by the previous government, 100 million, US dollars. $2 billion from IMF, $100 million from the World Bank. The stabilization fund they inherited, they took 250 million Ghana cedis from it. The European Union gave Ghana 85.6 million euros.
The COVID scourge. These are all things that were meant to shore up economies and help in this or that way. So was that really a boon? It wasn't a boon, it wasn't a benefit, was it?
It was a benefit because, you see, if they did not have all of that, then they wouldn't have been able to manage the economy at the time. They needed all of that to manage the economy. And we are saying that if perhaps they had put these revenues that they got as a result of the COVID, they wouldn't have been, look, today what are they chasing? Just 6 billion.
Right.
If they got 20 billion, if they borrow...
But every year has its own conditionalities. And but let me just ask you this. Sticker and Dr. Amwa was making the point that you on the minority side, you're just being hypocritical. You're playing the political game. And it is this. You feel that the E-levy is going to do them in terms of their fortunes in 2024. So why not let them go ahead? Why are you kicking against it? You have some diabolical intentions, and that is why you are doing all of this, just to ensure that they become unpopular because elections are around the corner. He says he doesn't have too much of a problem with it because it is politics, but you're being diabolical. Is that what you're doing?
I think he's speaking the New Patriotic Party because clearly the NDC, I believe, in the position that we find ourselves today, if the NPP were in that position, please.
Let him
I said you're being
hypocritical. Oh, no. I was using that as my, that basically you are not being honest. You are not living above the.
You see, if the NPP had the opportunity that the NDC have today, where the ruling party just has a majority of one because of, the decision of the independent candidate, independent parliamentarian to caucus with them.
Right.
You have been in this country long enough to have guessed what could have happened. I am very confident that even the formation of a government, you recall, they did not have these numbers in 20, they boycotted that. They boycotted the vetting of ministers. So I'm saying that if they had the opportunity that the NDC is having today by way of numbers in parliament, even the formation of government for the NDC would have been, a problem. Look, we have told them that what do you want to achieve? Let's sit and discuss how to go about it. You want 6.7, 6.8 billion? Not opposition that wants to just take advantage.
People have said we don't want an E-levy at all.
So that is the question we have asked them.
So basically,
the E-levy
alternative.
Exactly. The E-levy is to raise 6.8 billion. We are saying that if we sit around the table and discuss, we can help you raise the 6.8 billion without necessarily taxing the people. Unless, for example, propose the cutting down of expenditure, the government machinery. You and I, over the years, have complained about how much is allocated to the government machinery. We believe that cuts can be done there so that at least the luxurious, renting of private jets can be contained. We have, for example, talked about tax waivers that you bring to Parliament every time. In fact, you propose to pass a bill that will ensure that government did not grant those tax waivers. But you can't bring that bill because you are always interested in Guane. So we are saying that come around the table. There are ways through which we can help you, get the revenue of 6.7 billion without taxing
we'll get into that shortly.
Unless your focus is just to burden the people by taxing them.
We'll get into
that.
And
so that is not an opposition that just wants to take advantage of your inability to raise the 6.7 billion. We are saying there are other ways.
We also announced that I've been joined by Professor Kwabena Safo-Kantanka, Senior Research Fellow with Odikro. Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, Benjamin.
It's a pleasure. I'll be coming to you shortly, so just hold your horses because there are a few things I'd like to run by you. Some interesting messages coming through on social media, on Facebook to be specific. Wisdom Rockefeller says the E-levy will determine the future of the NDC in 2024. I don't know what you think about that, but hold your horses. This one says, let's all be prudent about this E-levy. This bill has nothing to do with employment or road infrastructure. This is just a deliberate. This one says, Akanvai Joseph, and I'll have you respond to this. Honorable Suini is confusing himself and everybody. He said the COVID-19 pandemic did not affect the country's economy alone, but it also affected the individual economy. Can he reconcile the individual economy and the country's economy? Would you like to take that quickly before we get into the banter about the alternatives? Very quickly.
Well, maybe...
Doc, I'll come to you.
He is a bit confused. I am clear in my mind that COVID affected the individual's economy. That is, the income you make and the expenditure you make was affected.
Right.
And I talked about how people lost jobs, how people had to take salaries affected. Should be sensitive when they are piling all the burden on the individual who also had his economy affected. So, for example, we pay more for fuel now. We pay more for utility now. We pay more for school fees in most cases. But our ability to earn was affected as a result of COVID. We also have endured the COVID levy that they brought, the sanitation levy, all the other levies they brought. We are paying all of that, despite the fact that our incomes are affected by COVID as well. So we are saying that in that context, the government must be sensitive to the individual and not to assume that, oh, their books are not...
Respond. Hold it. I know. But you also get your ample time.
Yes, sir.
So in a minute, what are the alternatives that we can use to sidestep or circumvent the E-levy and still rake in the sort of revenue that we need to shore up our budget?
One, we have told them that we can sit around the table and discuss the fees.
Right.
The fees, for example, that telecoms charge.
So that the service fees?
The service fees. So that
the 1%
we can look at the service fees. But we are against the transactional, the levy being on the transactions.
Right.
But we can look at the fees. We have made that proposal.
Which other countries have done?
Which other nation that just doesn't want government to get the money it needs to develop? That's an opposition that is thinking and saying that let's look at the fees. Two, we have also said that let's look at your expenditure this year. Let's sit down and look at the expenditure. Let's take a comb and, comb through your expenditure and help you make cuts that we believe will not affect the running of the economy.
They are cutting by 20%.
That is not reasonable. I mean, if
it's not reasonable.
It is not. I mean,
why?
The fact that the finance minister announces a cut does not mean that there is going to be a cut. Exactly. So that we look at also that he comes with maybe a mid-year review or something and tell us, I'm making cuts here. Now, if they say they are making a cut, we don't know where the cuts are going to be. Is it going to be, in the area of education, in the area of health? Let us know, because it is through that we will even know if those cuts are reasonable cuts or not, and if it will impact positively or negatively.
So we
are saying, let us look at your expenditure and help you make cuts that will not affect the economy. And then we have also said, let's look at the issue of tax waivers, that you bring the bill that you said you were going to bring to ensure that we did not grant these tax levies to companies, tax waivers to companies that did not deserve it. Let us look at it and help you in those areas. I believe that if you look at the amount of taxes that we waive for companies, some who don't even deserve it, we can make a lot of savings. Sometimes local companies. Mostly foreign companies, yes, but sometimes local companies. If we look into that, we can make a lot of money from that for you to run
let me bring
your economy.
Doc in now. And I also want you to respond from this angle. Zoe Jr. sends us on Facebook. He says, this government is not thinking in certain directions. Neither do they have the interests of Ghanaians at heart. Is the E-levy the only source of finance? Answer that in the context of the alternatives that have been given.
Thank you very much. I don't think this government has said E-levy is the only source of financing.
Right.
And even E-levy cannot solve our problems. But if a government thinks of Ghanaians or not, in nature, in terms of ideology, we have implemented pro-poor policies than any fraternity, at least far better than the strongest opposition today, which is a fact. in the area of health, in the area of education, in other areas. In fact, kind and cash. National health insurance, that one we're passing, our brothers even went away. They left parliament. We implement FQ. That was in our constitution since 92. They were in power for 8 years. We implement all these free SHS and all of them. So how can you say this government is not having the country at heart? I have with me here today. Our government reduced taxes or took away entirely about 16 components in 2017. So if it is tax imposition, reduction, or increment, we even have shown faith with the people. But boss, my brother here is just doing politics. That we mismanaged this economy. They were not part of it. I beg you, please go and find all the performance parameters of any economy in Ghana. What a Akufo-Addo government took over. That one we don't want to do.
So it's a shared mismanagement?
No, no, we have not mismanaged this economy. You can pick one parameter which is giving us trouble now.
Right.
But about 90% of all the rest, those we took over, we are better. In fact, government interest rate by NDC government is higher than today's lending rate. The banks are just there, go and find out. So these are all propaganda tools and things they want to use. And let me tell you something. All the opportunity he's talking about, you raise this important question to us. Can they put figures to it or to them? All the things we can do this, we can do that. Look, they left GDP growth of about 3.2%. That's what they left for MPP government. There was no COVID. That actually affected our days about 12. Reserve lower than today in terms of import cover. So what are they exactly talking about? If not anything at all, this government has shown faith with the people as a developing economy and, remarkably poor people in our society. Having a larger number at the bottom of the social stratification because we have been able to offer at least, whether it being efficient or not, opportunity for this free SHS, over 100,000 young ones would have been home. What did they offer when they got the opportunity? So what I'm saying is that, look, this expenditure thing, my brother, I'm surprised. I'm not saying he's lying, I wouldn't say that. But all expenditures come to finance committee.
Okay.
NDC guys are there, brothers, MPP guys are there. Almost every expenditure staff goes to various committees that we have NDC, MPP, they are there. So why are you coming to sit here and say that we give us and then we show you how we reduce and all those? No. What I want the NDC to do, I'm not rubbishing what they are saying, is we have done our work. This is our document, even if not to the public. That if you look at the obligations of this government, of this country today, in the area of education, this we put together, this is how much. If we use this alternative, these are the figures. I'm sure the government would have even taken it and used. But you cannot give general issues other people are giving. So the point I'm making is that our NDC brothers should know, because they understand. They are not daft. That's why I'm saying that sometimes it's just politics. They should understand the fact that if they mean well for this country, they should help MPP government to pass this bill, because there is an...
You guys on the E-levy, so we can transition to other matters, the hung parliament and what it is doing, and the speaker's absence as well. But let me bring in Prof.
And sorry, before Prof, I beg.
Right.
This issue about
I thought that
we waive taxes and we use friends and cronies. I beg taxes for only who are friends and cronies. Is he not my friend? Is he not my friend? What are they talking? These are all propaganda issues.
Point made. Prof, so we have, so to speak, the politicians from both sides in the studio, and maybe some would expect that, yes, they would toe the lines they are towing. But I say candid take on this E-levy as it is now. What do you think about it?
Thank you very much, Benjamin. What I would say is that there's a lot of confusion around the whole argument. And I'll take it from piece. If you look at what happened to VAT, the introduction of VAT, the introduction of the NHIS, and then what we are in right now, it should tell you that most of the time, opposition MPs will fight against the introduction of taxes. So we should understand it. You want to show that you love the people more than your opponent. You are interested in developing the country more than your opponent and all that kind of thing. So for me, this is where we have to look at it from. I said there's a little bit of confusion because, for example, I have listened to economists, professors, profound ones, much about people objecting to the introduction of the E-levy. But it looks to me that is more about the figures, that's the percentages. So some people think that the percentage has to come down from, say, 1.75 to about 1% or 1% plus something. So that the position of the minority MPs or the NDC MPs or the opposition MPs. In one breath, we are against it. In another breath, we want to see the percentage reduced.
That's not true.
For example,
they have said, just to clarify, Prof, they have said, and of course there was that engagement with the minority leader and some telcos where supposedly he mentioned 0.5 to 1%. They have clarified that that was the minority stance, no E-levy, and that's what they're standing by. Just to clarify for you.
Well, you see, when at what point in time do you differentiate the position of the leader from the other MPs? That is where it started from. So it's about going forward. When it started, there were positions. Then at a point in time, you have the discussions behind the scenes and all that. So yes, at this point, they can say that, well, that was the minority leader's own position. But I find it very difficult to take that because it becomes very difficult to differentiate between the minority leader's position and that of the opposition. So for me, that is my view. And you know that the NDC as a party led by the General Secretary has also said that, well, it is against between delegate representation and trustee representation. In other words, are the MPs doing what the party is asking them to do, or are the MPs acting on their own accord? And that is where I'll commend somebody like the like Okujeto Ablakwa, the honorable member for, is it Ketu South, who consulted his constituents and came to Parliament or came back and said, well, my constituents are saying A, B, C, D. It's more about trying to find consensus. And this is where I also fault the majority. Right from the word go, the majority had it wrong. In other words, they had the approach wrong right from the word go. And it started from when the speaker was elected. Now, when you have numbers, when you have a hung parliament, of course, let's say that the majority leader says it's not a hung parliament. But a hung parliament simply means that no party has an absolute majority. It is not clear whether a party has a majority or not. So the NDC doesn't have the MPs for the MPP. That is when the independent MP says that I'm going to work with the MPP. So it's obviously a hung parliament. And when you have such a situation, you don't do business as usual. Perhaps my observation is that over the years, because we have always had absolute majority in parliament, whichever party is in power, we have not been able to build that kind of consensus building. We have not developed our negotiation skills to the extent that when we have this kind of situation, it becomes very difficult for somebody to go to one person and say, hey, let's come together and have a chat. Let's discuss this and have a consensus and see how we can go forward and build this. Who has to do that? Among groups, you always have people, even sometimes behind the scenes, who wield that kind of confidence and influence, who can always lead that kind of discussion. So for me, I see a situation where, to a very large extent, the majority side has failed to do what they were supposed to do. Okay. That is, negotiate their way before coming to Parliament to even read the budget statement of the government. Right. I expected the government side, the majority, and even the executive to have engaged with the minority side and discuss things before even reading the budget statement. Okay. You know, and I have listened to the minority people You know, the day the president read the State of the Nation address, that was 2021, he called for consensus building in the fight against, for example, galamsey. But after that, I heard the minority chief whip saying that from the time of the election, that was the 7th of December, to the time of the president reading that statement, there had never been any attempt to speak with the minority. He said it several times, even to the point of the election of the Speaker of Parliament. So this is where I fault largely the majority side, that they have failed to do the needful, and that is negotiating their way. If you come to the floor of Parliament and you want this argument, the open argument, we will introduce it, we will pass it, we will not pass it, on whatever, what have you, will not solve the problem.
Okay.
At the end of the day, they will go back to the, come again, yes, come in.
Just wrap with that comment.
We will come back to the table to negotiate. And the earlier we started that, the better it will be for us.
Okay.
So that would be my advice to the majority side and to the government.
I am looking at this data here. I want each of you to take a look at this data. Yes, so this is going to be the
because he had all the time.
This is going to be the wrap up. Each one of you. Hold on. I manage the time here, so let me just do that. Let me do my work. I would give you a minute and a half, gentlemen, because we have to talk about our current state, the hung parliament, whether it's being a blessing.
We'll give him 3 bites. Even though he had all the time.
I think I've been pretty fair.
But that will give him 3 bites.
You didn't come early. You should have come early.
You're not showing up timely as
no, but it doesn't mean you should get a 10 bite.
Let's do this. I want us to look at this data because it gives a certain impression. As of 2019, per the Afrobarometer's research, 72% of Ghanaians were willing to pay more taxes to finance country development from our own resources. 73. Those who prefer to use external loans from the IMF, the World Bank, the Bretton Woods institutions, 18% said, no, let's go and borrow and do what we have to. And 10% were sitting on the fence. They neither agreed or disagreed. It gets interesting because when you look at our trajectory, 2011 to 2013, 90% of Ghanaians were willing to pay their taxes to contribute to ensure that our kitty is full and we can develop the country. It has come down to 79%, as I was mentioning. And the question is, if so many Ghanaians are willing to pay taxes, you have something between 90 and 80%, even if it has come lower. Why are we struggling with an E-levy if the people feel this is popular, this one will help us? Maybe you should take it.
That'll be his 4th and my 1.
I'll give you more time. So I'll give you.
No, that'll be his 4th time, and just I'm smoking just once.
I'll give you 2.5 minutes. Why? Very quickly on that.
That's interesting.
I think this is all practical intentions of Ghanaians.
I want you to be very. I want you to be very brief on this one. So just hit the jugular for me.
How can I hear on it? I don't know. I'm not having anything against the research done.
Right.
But I'll be surprised whether if we are introducing any form of any tax, whether even together introduced by NDC and MPP, you will get 72% of Kenyans who are saying, oh, hooray, we are going to pay those taxes.
No, but it's about a willingness to contribute to the state's coffers, to the kitty, to ensure that the country runs.
Kenyans are fully aware that you get even small samples say that happy want to pay. So I'm surprised. I get your point. I'm surprised. I really don't know the sample size. I don't know which segment of the social stratification they interact with. And I can't say it is not good or it is bad. But sometimes Kenyans also think the monies we collect, whether under NDC or MPP, we mismanage them. This also is also one of the reasons.
Right.
They think we mismanage them. And I think to some extent, you can agree with some Ghanaians that they think accountability and transparency to the level they want, they don't get. Not that they are right. And I also have issues with corruption perception because the way we manage perception is insulting you. So those people, their views about issues will be misdirected or be out of arbitrariness. But what I'm trying to say is that if government upon government, successive government, whether NDC, MPP or CPP, would demonstrate enough transparency and accountability, and Ghanaians can also have confidence in the way we use their money productively to benefit the state, and preparedness to pay taxes.
Al Hassan. I'll give you 3 minutes.
Well,
go ahead.
We have given him all the time and the chances. So
These
I'll
are all communist inferior tactics.
It's true. I mean,
He's
giving you all the time and the chances.
Your time is ticking.
He's forcing you
so
to
I'll
do
just
these
try
things.
to be brief. See, he talked about FQ.
Gosh.
Now, it's clear.
Right.
No, but boss, if he makes such statement,
please. I didn't
no, but you
interject.
can't say I don't understand.
I didn't interject.
But I think
I
I do think it may be below
that one exactly. If you do that, I'll come in.
I think.
But you understand FQ.
Why? I don't have the right to.
But you don't have the right and opinion.
I don't have the right of talking.
So he says he thinks you don't understand it based on.
But I think he's suffering from unconscious incompetence.
I don't mind.
So definitely, then
I think that he doesn't understand it.
You don't.
But gentlemen,
implemented
hold on. Hold on. Tone down for me. Thank you.
Free, compulsory, universal basic education.
Can you tone it down?
We and the MPP and the KOFO, we implemented.
Okay.
It's a matter of fact.
So Sticker, hold your horses, gentlemen. Let's not sling mud at each other. No. We must do this. I'm just saying that let's not get to the point where it gets personal.
Be straightforward.
Right. So
I
go
said
ahead.
I think, and he tries to throw mud.
Go ahead with your point.
So don't say we are throwing
go ahead
mud.
with
I
your
also
point.
think yes.
Now what I'm saying is that the introduction of
no,
1990.
it's within. Go and check.
Sticker.
But
Let him land.
But after we did,
you wouldn't have allowed this. You wouldn't have been happy about it. Let him land.
Sorry.
When he talks about GDP growth, go and read all the predictions of the economic think tanks by November 2016 about how Ghana's economy was going to grow in 2017. The EIUs, all of them, predicted.
Seen some of those projections, but you would also understand that projections are what they are. Projections, they don't necessarily pan out that way.
I don't take that away. I'm saying that I don't take the management that they carried out, the management of the investments they carried out, that ensured the growth that we recorded.
Right.
But it is unacceptable to harvest acceptable. Right. It is hypocritical, to say the least. So that's the point I seek to make about economic growth. When he says that it was 3.6 and then under 2017 was 8.6. Look, again, he talks about us not bringing figures when we make the alternatives. Look, the IEA has told us how much we lose from tax waivers, 5 billion Ghana cedis. And when he says that it is not their cronies, how do you grant $24 million, a company owned by your brother, the president's brother-in-law, Pullman, $24 million to come and build hotels? Is that essential?
Proof?
Oh yes, we granted that, Pullman.
But
we granted that in the last.
And that
it's not an allegation.
Owned by the president's brother?
Exactly, yes. It's public knowledge. Pullman is owned.
Right.
The president's brother-in-law. That's what I said.
in-law has.
That's what I said. I didn't say he said brother. I said brother-in-law.
And that person does not
You can understand $2 is more than the E-levy they are chasing. $24 million is more than the E-levy they are chasing. So we are saying if we check all of that, government can make the money that it needs to grow.
But hold it. That assertion you just made, that 24 million, you said $1 million.
Yes.
Is more than the E-levy. The E-levy is hoping to rake it. 24 million is not, I mean, you would be looking at something above $1 billion there.
Well, so thank you for that. But I'm saying that the GIA have also told us, for example, that we are losing $3 billion to corruption a year. To corrupt
$3 billion when it comes to the state-owned enterprise.
I'm talking about corruption.
The figures are here.
And GII is talking about $3 billion. You are adding, more institutions and the figures that they are bringing. So it tells you how much leakage we have in the system that if plugged, we will not be burdening people with this, Momo tax. Let me help Prof when he came in to understand the position of the minority, because it's a responsible minority, have not shied away from having a conversation with the government. The conversations around how to help the government govern have brought about a number of ideas I mentioned. It doesn't mean that we are saying we are against E-levy, go for tax waivers. Those ideas include the corruption discussion we are having. Those ideas include all the proposals we have put on the table.
Right.
So we have been engaging them. But our position has been clear that can be tolerated by us. But in the conversation, a lot of things come up. So if, as part of the conversation, when they went to the table, the government talked about what if we reduce it, and the minority leaders, as part of the conversation, also says that, well, it is something It is part of the consideration.
Let me just speak in this bit. I think you've expatiated enough on this matter. It's clear. It's clear.
I think
it's clear now. Else we'll not get into other matters. But I wanted some clarity. I wanted some clarity on this.
But you are giving all the time.
I'm coming to
coherence.
Your minority chief whip has said that he cannot guarantee that you will not get violent again when it comes to this E-levy. You're going back on the E-levy. Are you going to fight again?
You see,
I mean, if are you going to say that if need be, in quotes, you are going to fight again on the floor of Parliament?
We will not fight.
You must. Unfortunately, he spoke to your station, so I thought you would be doing that. Because clearly, what he said was that as a minority, we are not happy. And look, go and watch the videos. You have it on your set. The last fight took place on the side of the minority. The majority, as a minority, we are going to live by the rules of our country. And the 1992 Constitution enjoins us to resist whatever is illegal with all our might. With all our might. Unless by the dictates of the 1992 Constitution. It says you must resist what is illegal with all your might and whatever you have at your disposal. And you see, Parliament is a master of its own procedures.
Right.
So if it is illegal, it is an illegal conduct, and you allow that illegal conduct to take place, no court is going to overturn it. Yes, we have our procedures and standing orders, but let us remember, when we rejected the budget policy, the next time they came to reinstate the policy, because we did not want those spectacles that Ghanaians condemned to happen, we abstained, thinking it will teach them a lesson not to do an illegality that was so glaring, because they did not have the numbers. Okay. But the processes. We filed a motion, the Speaker rejected the motion, again, an illegality. So they were determined to continue perpetuating those illegalities. So they were not going to even tolerate a motion that will reverse what they did. So in that context,
right,
what do you do?
Right.
Do you stand by and allow the Constitution to be raped and violated with all your might?
Let me go to
So
Prof.
that is the context within which the majority chief whip said.
Maybe you can save your comments for the tail end of the conversation.
If they do not play by the rules, he cannot guarantee that we will stand by and watch them violate the Constitution.
Point well made.
You beat us again.
Studio, but
somebody is saying that the Constitution is saying that they should beat other people. That's what he implies.
I don't think that is what he is saying. I don't think that is what he is saying.
We will not fight. They should kill all of us.
That's logic.
They should come and kill us.
That is amazing.
We will not fight. No, you can beat us. It doesn't matter. It's not a place for boxing. It's not. So they say oppressors should use all their might. Please come and kill us. Look, in Parliament,
cognitive whatever was not in the best. I don't think it's not good.
We are both honorable members.
Wow, I like the way you take the time to caution me, but not him.
No, I just caution him.
I'm impressed with the way you take the time to caution me.
What are you insinuating when I started that what he said about your cognitive whatever was not in good taste?
But when he said that,
why are you trying to foist on me a certain bias that doesn't exist? Especially when you came late, and I've been very fair to you in terms of time.
Really?
Yes.
I've been fair to me.
Yes, I have.
We will all watch it after the program.
Gentlemen, let's be decorous. That is the bottom line.
That is what you should have done in the first place.
That's what you should have. Where we get to, we should exchange blows.
Right.
What happened at first, to me, is unfortunate. We cannot blame the minority or majority alone. But if anything at all, everybody watched what happened there.
Okay.
Nobody crossed to somebody's side to come and fight when he was sitting there quietly, not moving to where. But what I'm saying is that we from the majority side, we promise, if anything, let's use our intellectual capability and resources to demonstrate to Ghanaians that in-house there, it's about the brain, it's not about the fix. That's what I can say. If they want to beat us, they should beat us. After all, people suffered.
We'll leave it there. I don't want more fireworks on this one.
Prof,
and I'm very